What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today for another Frosty Features. Today, we have the epic, the elusive one, the deal giver, the reward for Dark Dimension 7, the big next thing coming to Marvel Strike Force eventually, you know, our biggest next step, Gear Tier 19 and what have you. Today on Frosty Features, we are covering the long-awaited Mephisto. And if you haven't been here before, what this is a comic background on a comic book background on the two tunes that you use in Marvel Strike Force, and I'm gonna be the one to give it to you, even though I apparently can't talk. Let's get into this. According to Scopely, what this is the blog post description of the character given in Marvel Strike Force, and I will rate their description at the end of my description. Mephisto is an extra-dimensional demon who rules a pocket dimension, which he calls Hell, and often poses as Satan, even though he is not the Satan. He seeks to rule the world and enjoys cutting deals in exchange for souls. Along with soul manipulation, Mephisto possesses immense powers, including unlimited ability to manipulate magical energies, incalculable strength, immortality, and shape-shifting. He's clashed with many heroes repeatedly, including Spider-Man, Dr.Strange, Thor, and Daredevil. So, we will rate that at the end of the feature. Mephisto, the man of the hour. His name actually is Mephisto. Mephistopheles is another demon situation, and he does go by Mephistopheles, but his name is actually Mephisto. It's not a shortened version of Mephistopheles, even though it is technically a shortened version of Mephistopheles. Anyway, I looked into this a little bit longer than I should have to make sure that was correct. It is. His actual name is Well, he doesn't actually have a name. He goes by Mephisto, right? That's his most canon name. How's that? First appearance. So technically, it's Silver Surfer number 3, which is awesome. But I like this one. So it's kind of a retcon that he was the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, the retelling of the Garden of Eden story in Marvel Comics, Bible Tales for Young Folk number 1, has the serpent. So retconned, Mephisto's first appearance is in 1953 in Bible Tales for Young Folk. Also, Silver Surfer number 3 has Mephisto. There it is. Powers and abilities. Universal manipulation. Okay, so I was sitting here, another thing I spent a lot of time on was trying to define Mephisto's powers. Even in the blog post, it had kind of a weird description. Mephisto's powers are essentially what Mephisto feels like they need to be at any given time. Mephisto is incredibly powerful, and due to the fact that he has pretty much zero restraints as far as manipulating reality, it's easier to talk about what he can't do. He cannot possess, he can't control sentient beings without them being willing to be controlled. That's sort of his hard limit. Also, another kind of lesser known fact, but kind of interesting thing is he has no control over people from different universes. So people from different dimensions. So we could see a really cool storyline with maybe Miles Morales, since he's not originally from the 616. Maybe there's something that I don't know about that has been played with, but in canon, he has no control over people that are from alternate dimensions. Which is pretty important, which is actually why I came upon the description as universal manipulation, because once again, his powers are all over the place. Also, for context, we've talked about many characters with cosmic awareness. Mephisto has cosmic awareness and everything else, right? So this is, as much as we've talked about gods of different caliber and things like that, Mephisto very much is a capital G god compared to a lot of other ones. Aliases. So some of the aliases he goes by. So this guy, he claims to be Satan. We'll talk about that in a bit. So he goes by a lot of aliases. So most notably, the Devil, Mephistopheles, Satan, many, many, many others. He also really likes to disguise himself as other people and things like that. So he has a whole bunch of different things he goes by. But for the most part, at the end of the day, when we get there, he ends up coming out as being these things. I do want to point out, one of the only devil names he does not accept is Lucifer. He says that he is not Lucifer, somebody else is Lucifer, and that is not who he is. But yes, Mephistopheles and Satan are things that he will take. He is not a fallen angel. That is a very important distinction between him and Lucifer. Affiliations. He has been around since essentially the dawn of time, so he's been many affiliated all the time, but most notably the Lords of Hell, which are essentially these high-class demon gods, or not even demon gods, just these high-class death god types that collect souls. Dormammu, Hela, his son Blackheart, him, all collect souls, and essentially there's supposed to be a war where whoever has the most souls will win. And even though they are all these different Lords of Hell, it is widely speculated that Mephisto is the strongest of the Lords of Hell. So that's something important to keep in mind. Background. It is unknown. It's shrouded in a lot of mystery. But there are two origin stories that have conflicting opinions on his whole situation. So either he was created by Celestials when the progenitor dies, or there is the God Eater that is going around eating the original gods, and something to do with the leftover magic created the Lords of Hell. So the origin's actually a little wishy-washy, and there's two that are in canon. So at the end of the day, we don't actually know what his background is. What we do know, however, is that he is not a demon. He is an extra-dimensional being, right? That's something really important to keep in mind. So who died? Can't be a superhero, supervillain without somebody dying. In his case, if you go with the God Eater storyline, all of the Elder Gods. If you go with the Celestial storyline, the Progenitor. So we're going to go with the Celestial storyline a little bit because it makes a little bit more sense in my brain. So, for him to become a villain, the Progenitor had to die so that he could rise to power and the evils in the universe exist, right? So, with that, we get the creation and the being of Mephisto to be able to begin his reign of terror across all of the universe. Is he the devil? So this is an interesting question that's up for a lot of debate. So, he is not a demon. He is an extra dimensional being. Is he the devil? He really likes to pretend that he's the devil. His realm of death, each of the Lords of Hell have their own realm, right? So like Dormammu is in the dark dimension, similar things. So Mephisto calls his hell because essentially he likes the fact that that whole Abraham Christian mythos of the idea of hell. So he wants to recreate that. So these people are more keen to fear him because that's also why he takes on. He does not have a physical body. He appears how he wants to appear. So he appears as this stereotypical devil look, so that when people see him, he automatically reflects it. And this whole thing, once again, the Lords of Hell are trying to capture so many souls. So due to the fact that he wants his realm to be very identifiable to people that have heard of hell and the devil and things like that. So he's essentially this being that is playing the role of the devil. He is playing the role of hell and things like that. So he is legitimately just doing this for the recognition, more or less, which is very effective because, once again, he debatably is the strongest Lord of Hell, right? There's some other options, obviously. Dormammu being a pretty good contender, but Mephisto plays his game and he plays it well. The whole thing about Mephisto is he is the con man, right? He's like one step up from Loki when it comes to trickery, and he's always playing the long game. Even when he loses, he typically wins. So that's one super cool thing about Mephisto. So is he the devil? Yeah, kinda, right? He heard of the devil and took up the role, is what happened, right? He's a philanthropist. This is a really fun fact that one of my favorite things about Mephisto, right? So, essentially, when Mephisto's born, what he will do is he will go and help with he will do many philanthropic endeavors. He will go and help feed the poor, and he'll help go and rebuild societies and things like that. Because if these humans are left to die at an earlier time or whatever, that leaves room for less sins for them to commit. So if a bunch of children die due to poverty and things like that, they don't have a chance to sin and therefore can't go to his realm, and he can't capture their souls. So on top of being like essentially literally the devil, he's also a pretty nice dude, right? Relationships. Mephisto has quite a few relationships, most notably being Lilith, his ex-wife, who is a very powerful demon and character within Marvel lore. Mephisto, Blackheart, Greylight, and John Priest are all his children. Most notably, I believe, being Blackheart, we see him the most, and he has kind of the most kind of badass appearance. With that, Mephisto actually will on occasion take a red form of similar to Blackheart's, which some people speculate that is Mephisto's true form, but it's not confirmed, since Blackheart looks like that, right, by association. So, notable events. So, Mephisto's been around for a while, 1953. But Mephisto's been around for a while. He's been involved in a lot. Very notable ones that I'm not going to bring up. One More Day, Spider-Man One More Day is like one of the biggest events in comic books that divides comic book readers. I also, one of the big things when I picked up in my history of reading comic books as a child to when I was an adult, there was a huge gap. And one of the first big lines I read again when hopping back into comic books was Heroes Reborn. Also a big point of contention for the comic book community, but I read Heroes Reborn, which has a big point of Mephisto. But today we're going to talk about Damnation and Versus. So, Damnation, Dr. Strange Damnation. This is a storyline that is pretty cool. Essentially, it follows Secret Empire. So this is, I feel like it's pretty common knowledge that within the modern era of comics, there was a storyline called Secret Empire where Captain America ended up being a Hydra agent, and so he was like Captain Hydra essentially. So after Secret Empire, Hydra destroys Las Vegas, right? It's all decimated, and coming in after that, we see Doctor Strange coming to, he has recently gotten back his Source of Supreme Power, and he has been amply powered up. So he goes to Las Vegas and he's like, I'm gonna fix this problem. This will be great. So he's like, oh, magic. And then he restores all the buildings and all the lives of the people lost. That's how powerful Doctor Strange is at this moment. Very important to note. Quite an impressive being. Doctor Strange, my favorite, so it's cool. Of course we would talk about this. So anyway, so in bringing back Las Vegas, he was like, this was great. I saved a lot of people, and then bam, a big old tower appears in the middle of Las Vegas called the Hotel Inferno. And essentially what this was, when using magic, especially if you are Doctor Strange, you have to give something to get something. So, a really good example is Doctor Strange doesn't eat regular foods because he can't taste, because he gave up his sense of taste. So he eats all these like different like monster parts, and he literally can't eat regular food. It turns to ash in his mouth. So he eats a bunch of really gross stuff. Important to note. So with this, to the give and take here was all these souls in Las Vegas. Mephisto was like, oh yeah, all these dudes are sinning when they died, so I got them all. That was pretty cool. And then you ripped them from me, which pissed me off for a second, but then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Las Vegas is known as the city of sin. What I'm gonna do, actually instead, real quick, is I'm gonna leave my little hotel and casino open, and I'm just gonna let them sin more. So essentially putting sin on her, since he's there specifically right there waiting for people to sin, people around his building even making the smallest amounts of lying. There's a thing in the comics where this guy does not pay for his parking ticket, or no, he doesn't pay the parking toll. He just walks away from the parking meter, and Mephisto's like, your soul, ha ha ha. So Mephisto's like, yeah, I'm setting up here, and I'm gonna be able to get a lot more souls just kind of chilling in Vegas than I am gonna be working from hell. So we're just gonna make that work for me, if that's cool with you, Dr. Strange. Doing this, once again, long con. Mephisto is always playing the long con. Another important limitation to his power I didn't bring up before: the longer he is away from his realm, the weaker he becomes. This is also very common between different Lords of Hell. Extended periods of time on Earth is actually pretty bad for him. That's important to the storyline. So anyway, so he is like, I'm gonna post up here in this hotel, and he just dresses as a seedy like guy, just some random dude with a red suit, and he's like, this is gonna be cool. What do you think about that, Stephen Strange? And Stephen Strange is like, yeah, I'm not super keen on this situation. It's not good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop you right now. And Mephisto's like, that's not how this works, bud. Okay, so here's the deal, because once again, Mephisto's about making deals. Always, every time, it's always a deal. He's like, here's the deal. I think humankind is awful. You're telling me that they're not as bad as I think they are. So how about we put a little deal into works here, right? If I have your soul, the other Lords of Hell are going to be like, wow, Mephisto's amazing. So, we will wager your soul if the Avengers who are here, it's like Captain Marvel and a few others, if the Avengers who are here are tempted, they will be, I will get their souls, and in the event that they're tempted, I will get your soul. And in the event that they aren't tempted, you're good. I'll leave, and I'll give all the souls of the Las Vegas people back, and I'll just leave you alone. And Dr. Strange is like, yeah, that sounds good for me. Let's do that. And he thought he was going to be able to get away with it, but it was already set up to fail because of the heightened rules that Mephisto put in place. The violent nature involved with the Avengers automatically made them corrupted, so they all become like Ghost Rider versions of themselves, and all of a sudden Dr. Strange is screwed, right? So as that happens, Wong becomes aware of this because Bats lets him know. Bats being Dr. Strange's dog, he's a ghost dog that speaks English, which is amazing, and he's super smart and he's great. So Bats is like, lets Wong know, hey, Strange is in trouble, you gotta do something. And Wong's like, yeah, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get everybody together who has had contact with Mephisto and make a team, right? And this team, ladies and gentlemen, being the Midnight Suns. So Wong goes to Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Blade, Elsa, Bloodstone, Brother Voodoo, and Iron Fist, and I believe Man-Thing is there. Just this really jacked team of people, and gets them all together. And he's like, let's go save Strange. Let's do and the Avengers. Let's do this. Mephisto's awful. Let's go kick his butt. And they're like, sure, I guess. They kind of don't like each other a whole bunch. It's one of those situations. Also, they're all like the really dark, edgy characters of the Marvel Universe. So obviously there'd be points of contention there. But essentially they're like, yeah, we're going to go do this. And also they do this under threat of Wong. Wong's like, if you don't do this, I will kill all of you. And he's like, don't worry about it. I can do it. And they all just sort of accept that. Oh, and Blade. I don't know if I said Blade, but it's very important to say Blade, right? I love Blade. All of my favorite characters randomly appear here. Even randomly, as they get there, they show up and they just start absolutely decimating all these demons that have taken over Las Vegas, because obviously Mephisto's there. And they're laying out all these demons, and Ben Reilly shows up because being displaced from New York because he's trying not to interfere with Spider-Man. Ben Reilly shows up with 2 AK-47s strapped to his back, and he's killing demons like left and right with these choppas, right? So we got the Midnight Suns plus Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider, which is super freaking cool. And so anyway, they're all killing a bunch of people. And Wong grabs Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider, and he's like, hey, Ghost Rider, you're gonna need, if you make the sacrifice play, here's the deal, we can win this. So immediately, I'm not gonna spoil what happens just yet. He's like, go, Johnny, go. And then, Johnny goes up the Hotel Inferno and goes to face Mephisto by himself. And Mephisto's like, you're such a loser. I gave you your power. I can take it. So then that's what it sounds like when you get the Ghost Rider kicked out of you by the devil. So he goes, and Johnny Blaze is like, oh no, I'm a regular human. Whatever am I gonna do? And Mephisto's like, regular humans can't fly, right? And Johnny's like, right. And so Mephisto goes, okay, cool. And then he throws him out of his tower and kills Johnny Blaze, right? But like I said, Wong said, hey, you got to make the sacrifice play. And he did. So because he sold his soul to Mephisto to get the Spirit of Vengeance, Johnny Blaze wakes up in hell and he's like, you know what? That throne up there is looking mighty empty with him up there in Las Vegas. So what I'm gonna do is go sit on that throne and see what happens. And he sits down on the throne, fire crown. And then he's like, oh, look at that. There's a bunch of Ghost Rider Avengers up there fighting the Midnight Suns, that team I was on for 5 seconds. Let me see what happens if I turn them on Mephisto. So then all of a sudden the Avengers in Ghost Rider form are like, hey, Mephisto, you're in a bad way right now, and beat the living crap out of him along with the Midnight Suns, right? So then Dr. Strange regains his soul and he comes out and he's like, oh, this was a really good move. Let's go. Oh yeah, and also before all this, I missed this cool part, but Fire Thor, Lady Thor throws the hammer Mjolnir at Blade and it's stuck on Blade's chest, and Mark Spector picks it up off of him. Think of that what you will. That's a neat thing. Mark Spector does it. Moon Knight, right? Okay. So anyway, so with that, Johnny's the king of hell. Mephisto no longer has power over his dominion, and also when he's left alone and away for so long, he's weakened. So the Avengers and the Midnight Suns kill Mephisto. He goes to hell, and when he gets there, Johnny Blaze has gotten all of the Ghost Riders from all time to meet Mephisto where he appears, and they torture and beat the crap out of him for a while. But to keep him weak, they rebirth him back into the earth so that he can't stay in hell too long to become too powerful. And essentially, he's in a forever, you die here, come back here. You die here, come back here. And situation to kind of keep him at bay. Damnation is awesome, and I recommend reading it. Yes, I spoiled the whole thing, but that's kind of what I do. Why I only do 2 notable events instead of a bunch of other ones. Versus, there is a mini-series in which Mephisto is versing, not the Marvel Universe necessarily, but kind of runs the whole gauntlet. Essentially, he targets Susan Storm. So this is a really good... I like the Versus storyline just because it shows how far ahead Mephisto plans. So Mephisto is looking to get as many souls. At the end of the day, the Versus storyline is him trying to... So Hela being another Lord of Hell, he's just trying to undermine Hela. So this whole comic storyline is legitimately just him trying to screw over Hela, which is super fun. So he brings, to start off with Hela, obviously you start with the Fantastic Four. So he brings the Fantastic Four to Hell with Franklin Richards with him. And he's like, yo, Susan, I made a deal with Reed, and he's going to stay here forever unless you do something about it. So she's like, how about you take my soul and let them go? Let the Fantastic... He did not make a deal with Reed, by the way. He was lying because he's pretending to be the devil. She's like, take my soul, send them back, send Franklin back. I'll be here. It'll be fine. And he's like, deal. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. Shapow! And he sends them back. Sue's staying down there, and he's like, okay, great. It was baby Franklin Midnight. So baby Franklin didn't know how to turn him inside out yet. I think it was baby Franklin. Pretty sure. Anyway, regardless, he didn't turn him inside out. So he sends him back, and Reed gets back. Oh, he also took Reed's intelligence, but he gave it back. So, but he went from Reed Richards, the most intelligent person in the Marvel Universe, fight me, or down to can barely speak guy, back to Reed Richards. And he gets back to Earth and he goes, you know who I need? X Factor for some reason. Let's get X Factor in on this. So then he goes to X Factor and he's like, you gotta save Sue. And X Factor's like, let's save Sue. And then they go and X Factor gets owned by Mephisto because it's freaking Mephisto. And it comes down to Jean and Mephisto, and Jean's like, I'll give you my soul if you let go of Sue and X Factor. And Mephisto's like, great, done. Let's keep going on this train. And he sends them back, and now he's got Jean Grey, and that pisses off the X-Men. And the X-Men are like, we're gonna go fight Mephisto to get Jean Grey back because X Factor did such a good job doing that exact same thing for somebody else. And obviously that works out because they go to Mephisto and get their butts kicked. And Rogue, essentially, is in a situation she's like, okay, well, if I absorb all the X-Men's powers and then go after Mephisto, that'll work. And Mephisto's like, oh my god, oh no, what if you did that and then tried to absorb my powers? What would happen then? It obviously would be bad for me, wink wink. And Rogue's like, oh yeah, darling, that is exactly what's going to happen to you. And so she absorbs all the powers and goes over to Mephisto and touches him, and then he soul sucks her some kind of way, steals her soul, and then he's got a Rogue in hand, and he doesn't even care about the X-Men being there, so he just lets them go, because this whole thing was him trying to get a hold of Rogue, right? So then, he's like, alright, I'm gonna change this a little bit, so y'all get out of my way, I got something to do. And he poofs into this little situation where Thor was battling the Midgard Serpent, which we talked about in, I think, Frosty Features Beta Ray Bill, I think. Look back in the Asgardian ones, maybe it was Lady Thor. Anyway, he's battling the Midgard Serpent. He is very weak. He's pretty much dead, right? So Hela is there trying to, remember, he was doing all this trying to screw over Hela. Hela is there trying to take back Thor's soul. Or to take Thor's soul for herself, because Thor's sort of her big goal, right? Mephisto's is actually Silver Surfer, and I didn't really talk about that, but that's a big thing. But with Thor, so he shows up, and he's like, hey, Rogue has soul-sucking abilities because she touched me or whatever, and so I'm going to use Rogue, yoink, and Rogue soul steals Thor's soul over Hela, and Hela's like, Mephisto, you suck! And Mephisto's like, ah, ha, 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 I got Thor's soul, what you gonna do about it? And then he gets Thor's soul in hell, and he's trying to tempt Thor with all these different things, and try to torture him or whatever, and he's not getting what he wants from Thor. Thor is being Thor, he's being super pure, super strong, super whatever, and he's unbreakable, right? And so he goes back to hell, and he goes, hey, I had Thor's soul, that really sucked. So I'm going to put Thor's soul back, and you can have him when he's done, okay? And Hela's like, haha, great victory. And Mephisto's like, haha, great victory to you. Good job. I'm going back to hell. Bye. And he leaves. And with Hela thinking that she won, what we find out later, he's talking to the Living Tribunal, our wonderful Cosmic Crucible observer. He's talking to the Living Tribunal, and he was like, yeah, I did that so that Thor would know what hell is like. So when he goes to Hela's hell, he makes it awful for her, right? So he did all of that just to condition Thor to hell, so that he makes being Hela much harder when Thor dies eventually, right? Long game, Mephisto, it's a thing, amazing. Next up is power level. In Marvel Strike Force, they don't care about power level, but here on Frosty Features, we do know the way that this works. If you are a multiversal threat, that means you are a threat to all of the multiverse and can knock it down at a whim. If you are universal, you can end your reality, perhaps hop over to another reality and end it there. Cosmic means you are a threat on the small end on a planetary scale, and with enough time and effort, you can take out something like a solar system or even a galaxy. Nuclear means that you will have the power equal to that of a nuclear bomb, able to level things like small cities or a planetary body at the high end. Super soldier means you are a person that is beyond all capability of human beings. The baseline here obviously being somebody like Captain America, etc., right? Super soldier, that was the one I just said. City is a human being that is trained to the absolute and utter peak of ability, this is a place where we find a lot of our mercenaries, our secret agents, our spies, our things like that in the Marvel Universe. You're able to take out big bads, hand-to-hand specialties, etc. But maybe no superhuman strength or reflexes, etc. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian spawned by Hela, appropriately in this one. In Marvel Strike Force, and left to his own devices, he is nothing but a thing, right? And therefore, right? So for the sake of argument, in undead Asgardian physiology, we are equating him to the strength of that of a regular human being. So in the event that there is a dead cat in the road and I am going to clean it up with a shovel, Greg decides to have words with Frosty Osty for some reason, I could use my shovel cat combo and theoretically take him out, right? So, in the case of Mephisto, we have an extra-dimensional being who I have said multiple times is extremely powerful. Mephisto is the golden child for a universal power. He has complete and utter dominance over this universe, right? Even Heroes Reborn, he literally rewrites history across the entire universe because he can, right? He has total and utter control over how any of these things happen, and he can reality manipulate all throughout. To the point, he is one of the beings, the Lords of Hell cannot use the Infinity Gauntlet and stones and things like that. He's one of those, right? He is so strong, he doesn't need them, right? But he has no control, he has no dominion outside of his universe, so he is essentially all-powerful within his bubble, within his universe. So that is a very good example of a universal character. He's one of the only ones I feel like we've talked about. I think we've had like maybe one multiversal character in Frosty Features, but as far as Universal goes, we don't have many either. Mephisto is the perfect example of a Universal level character, and according to Scopely, they didn't really lay too much out. They definitely called him a demon, which he's not. He takes on the role of demon, but maybe he gives weight to the name demon, but he's not technically a demon. He also he's not the Satan, but he takes on the role of the Satan and acts as the Satan. So I don't know if that's technically wrong, but there's that. The way they describe his power is sort of convoluted. And also, I feel like when they're like, oh yeah, he took on these heroes: Spider-Man, city level; Dr.Strange, understandable good one; Thor, understandable good one; and Daredevil, city level, right? Spider-Man, he's super soldier-ish, but still, little guy, big guy, little guy. Also Silver Surfer, also Sentry, right? Much stronger Marvel characters. I say they didn't even try. They gave a very, very half-hearted effort to make a, to describe Mephisto, and that is what it is. And that was Frosty Features Mephisto. I hope that you all had enjoyed it. If I missed anything or got anything wrong, please let me know in the comments. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. And as a reminder, I stream every weekend on Sundays, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we do Frosty Features Live. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. Most importantly, stay cool.